of Indiana. Paul Begala, speaking of Bill Clinton, you helped write at least several of his State of the Union addresses. Did this president need an editor to cut it down a little bit today?
Oh, I'm weird this way. I loved it, and particularly that conclusion, Wolf. My goodness, that was worth staying for. I mean, it was really powerful. The whole tone was much more populist than this president has generally been. It suggests that he's kind of relishes now the idea of stepping up and being campaigner-in-chief. The other thing that struck me, though, both at the beginning and then that powerful conclusion talking about that SEAL Team 6, was now how authentically and comfortably and confidently he inhabits the role of commander-in-chief. You know, every new president, you can almost see it in their eyes when those guys at Marine One salute them. First, they kind of don't know what to do. No longer. This president is very comfortable being the commander-in-chief, and he talked about it with such power tonight. I thought it was very moving. And politically, I thought it was a great speech. But just as a citizen, I loved seeing my commander-in-chief being that powerful.
He's walking out of the chamber right now, the President of the United States. Ari Fleischer, you worked for President George W. Bush. You served in Congress earlier. You worked in Congress. What do you think of that speech?
Wolf, there was hardly anything in the speech I liked. But let me start with the one thing that I really liked and liked a lot, and that was I salute the president, the courageous decision to authorize the mission to get bin Laden. President Obama deserves the credit for that, and he got it tonight. But the rest of it, it was his whole emphasis, his whole reason for being in government is to spend other people's money, is to take from those who have money and to redistribute it to others that he thinks should have the money instead. This is his whole raison d'etre. This is everything he seeks to do in the presidency. The body language, the emotion, there was really very little to nothing there on reducing the debt. Very little to nothing there on saving Social Security or on Medicare. Or as we're about to hear from Mitch Daniels on what Mitch has called the red menace of debt. Really just passing mentions. It wasn't the emphasis of his speech tonight. You get the sense what he really wants to talk about is how to spend more of other people's money on this program, on that program, on this program, because the federal government, through the creation of either entitlements or more spending programs, knows how to do things better than everybody else. That's what I heard tonight.
And let me get Roland Martin to weigh in as well. Roland, a lot of those lines really appealed to what we call the Democratic base. You saw a lot of those liberal Democrats standing up and applauding enthusiastically.
Yeah, but the lines also appealed to American people. Look, we can talk about the people in the room, but the president basically said is, Congress, get your butt to work. Paul is right. The close there was absolutely strong. Any preacher would love to have that kind of close when he said it's the mission that matters. And I'll tell you, Ari, if you're out there, Republican or Democrat, and you're trying to keep your home, you like what the president had to say. If you're a Republican or Democrat and you want your kids in college and you want that tax credit, you have no problem with what the president had to say. And so I think this is not a question of, well, let's focus on the debt or whatever. This was the president saying, I'm speaking to the American people and Congress. It's time for you to stop playing games and be like our military, be about one nation, one accord. Let's move together.
Candy Crowley, a lot of the themes, hold on, Ari, I just want to bring Candy in for a second. Candy, a lot of the themes the president's going to be delivering in the course of the next many months leading up to November, we heard today.
We did. I mean, this was the blueprint. You will hear bits and pieces of it as he moves forward. As a matter of fact, as he starts tomorrow, and he's got a couple, 3 days of campaigning or going out and talking to the American public, however you'd like to look at it. And you will hear these themes again, energy and education, moving forward for fairness. I thought the speech itself, there certainly were some things intended, I think, and Jessica spoke to this, intended to kind of draw the sting from Republicans. I thought one of the more interesting lines in it was about it's time to apply the same rules from top to bottom. No bailouts, no handouts, and no cop-outs. Sort of addressing that fairness issue, I think, that Republicans keep bringing up and saying is really about envy. So I thought that was good. And I agree with both Paul and Roland that I thought it was totally interesting that he wrapped the entire economic speech at both ends with beginning with the Iraq war is over and ending with, and by the way, Osama bin Laden is dead. Because the truth is, this president gets higher marks for his handling of foreign policy now than he does for his handling of the economy. I thought that was a very astute political move of him.
Yeah, Ari Fleischer, you wanted to make another point.
Yeah, I think what Roland's point about how the public will receive the speech, in 2008, the public loved Barack Obama's speeches. In 2009, they really liked them. In 2010, they liked them. In 2011, They didn't like them. Now in 2012, the people have heard so much of this before, yet the economy is bad, debt sky high, spending is out of control, and unemployment is terrible. This is the big problem Barack Obama has in 2012. It goes beyond the beauty of words tonight and to the fact that what he's done hasn't worked. In fact, it's aggravated a lot of the problems we have.
Hey, Will, Will, can I please make a comment here? This is very simple. I wasn't speaking about a speech. I was speaking about policy. Look, I grew up in Houston. That's an oil and gas city, oil and gas state. Me and my brother and sister, all three of us in college at one time. If you're a parent watching right now, you heard the president talk about policy when it comes to keeping kids in school, a policy when it comes to keeping your home being foreclosed. That's not a speech. That's policy, Ari.